welcome back to Edwards for another little class. This is a really fun and easy project to do, and I think you're all going to love it. And some of you may have done this with us before. So I wanted to say, remember to ask you, when you complete your project, if you happen to share it, tag Edwards, because I love to see your project, and everyone else will too. It's sort of half of the fun of the class is to see how different everybody's creation turns out. So share if you will, because I miss you guys and I would love to see it. Okay, so we're gonna just jump right in. So kokodama means literally moss ball. It's Japanese, and in English it means moss ball. And it's also referred to sometimes as poor man's bonsai. Our kokodama, and typically they're not huge, is going to be about the size of a softball or fat grapefruit. And your plant isn't going to grow super big and huge. It's going to stay in this small moss ball, and essentially the roots will be restrained. So that's how you make bonsai. You restrain the roots so that the plant grows in miniature, sort of miniature form. I don't know if anyone's ever like had a seed fall from your cosmos or marigolds in the crack of a sidewalk. It will grow back teeny tiny, like a teeny tiny miniature version of that plant, and that's because its roots are restricted. So that's sort of a version of nature's bonsai. So anyway, kokodama really is a form of bonsai. These plants aren't, potentially a fern could get huge and fill a very large pot, but we're going to keep it this size, and they will grow and have lovely new growth, but they won't ever get huge. The kokodama tradition, like bonsai, asks that you pay close attention to your plant, almost like a meditative practice. So you want to be conscious of your little kokodama every day to see if it needs water and if it has the appropriate amount of light, those sorts of things. And the idea is that this isn't a plant that you just set and forget, like you water it once every month or two like a succulent. This is something that you should, or you can at least, be very mindful about and take a daily practice with to check on. Which I love that idea of watching very closely how the plant grows, and as well as when leaves decay. So I hope you all will give it a try and enjoy it. And I think the result is that your kokodama will be healthier and last longer, and you'll avoid like accidentally letting it dry all the way out. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to make the kokodama, and then I'll talk to you about the care. So in your kit, I really couldn't decide which kokodama you guys should get, so you're going to get two. You're going to do a fern and a spider plant, and I'm going to build the spider plant one with you today, but it's exactly the same for the fern. And the fern requires a little more water than the spider plant. I want you to kind of have that experience of caring for those two. So anyway, we'll go ahead and build it, and then we'll talk more about watering. So in your kit, you're going to get some lovely sheet moss. It's alive. This is dry, and yours will be too when you get it. I have a little bucket of water here, and you just literally put it in the water and squeeze it out like a sponge, like that. And it just sort of, it comes right back to life like that. And you'll see it really is like a sheet. This moss is harvested sustainably in forests, and literally lays right on the forest floor like a sheet. So when you see it, it's like this, right? And then they peel it back and send it to us. So we're going to use it this way, of course, so that the moss, the beautiful part, is on the outside of the kokodama. So when you get your moss pieces, it should be like mainly one large piece. You can see this isn't entirely, it's a little bit broken up. You're just going to form like what I think of as like a little pizza crust, sort of, that size circle. That's the base for your kokodama. And then in your kit, so if you have like holes or it doesn't feel like a very solid piece too, because some of you may get like one large piece with a bit smaller piece, don't worry. We have, even if you had all little chunks, you could get it around, and I'll show you how to do that. So You just form your little pizza shape, and then you're going to have a little coffee filter. You're going to stick right there. And this is just a little organic coffee filter, and it will eventually decompose and become part of your kokedama. But for right now, we're using it as a way to sort of secure the arrangement, and then the roots will grow through both directions, and eventually it will be gone. So, but it helps us in the forming of your kokedama. So in your kit, you'll also get a little bit of activated charcoal to sprinkle in there, and that's to avoid a boggy smell, because you're going to want to keep this moss and the plants in them fairly moist. So to avoid this sort of boggy aroma, the charcoal does a terrific job with that. Okay, so you don't need to add any extra dirt or anything. The amount of dirt that's in your little pot is exactly perfect. You'll just slip it out of its little container. Pop it right down there, and then kind of wrap it up like this. Okay, and you can see that's coming apart, but I'm going to wire it all closed. So then in your kit, you will also have some bind wire. We use this for everything. It's awesome. I'll send you several long pieces, so you'll have plenty. So I just hold about 4 or 6 inches in my left hand, because I'm right-handed, and bring it around the ball that you just formed, and just go around a few times until it starts to feel like you're securing it. Watch out for your little pieces. You don't want to restrict them. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just getting the first round of wire to secure kokedama. So there's that. I like to stop here. Like, I don't ever go in super tight, because I want to control the shape. I'm really going for a nice round shape. I think that's prettiest. If your shape gets long or more square and you like it, that's perfectly fine. That's just a creative choice, and you should make it if you want to. Okay, so now that we have this more or less, I mean, it's not going to go anywhere immediately. I'm going to leave that little guy hanging there, because I'll probably use it some more. In your kit, you're going to have some other little bits and baubles. You will have some cocoa husk, and it kind of pulls apart in little layers like that. You can use as little or as much of that as you like. I kind of like it, as you can see my little example one, I just used a piece here and a little piece on the back to break it up, and for visual interest. It's not necessary. If you like yours just plain exactly like this, that is up to you. If you were going to leave it plain just like this, I would add a few more pieces of the bind wire to make sure that it's really secure. But we're going to do that with our little bits of moss. So I'm just going to pick a couple spots. So if you had a bare spot where, for instance, the little white coffee filter was showing through, like here, this would be a natural place to put a decorative piece of moss or something to cover that little spot, and you'll have lots of chances to do that. So here I'm just kind of squishing those on, and then I'll get some more of this red wire and go around, and again I'll just hold a few inches at one end, and around you go. Okay, so then also in your kit you will get this pretty, this is also cocoa husk around this wire. There will be a length for you to use to hang your kokedama, as well as a little bit to go. I should have untangled that before. Here we go. That's better. This is how yours will come, not all tangled up. You can go exactly as you did with the other bind wire just go around a few times to add the visual interest of that cool looking stuff. If you don't care for it, then you can just omit it. Okay, so before you decide if you're going to add a hanger or not, I like to do some more little decorative mosses on there. The reindeer moss. So, in your kit you'll have some various colors of reindeer moss. Just do a little goes a long way. So the reindeer moss is just like the sheet moss. You can just dip it in water, and it will, and then squeeze it out like a sponge, and it really like will double and triple in size. So whenever you purchase mosses like this, at a craft store or from us or wherever, always do that, and you'll be surprised at how much nicer they look that way. They just sort of come right back to life. So in your kit you will also have some little greening pins, we call them, and they're just little metal, like a long staple essentially, and you can take your little bits of moss. I kind of like mine up towards the neck a little. Something I'll mention since I'm talking about the neck, when you're building your kokedama, you see I stopped right here. If I were to come up like this and choke the plant in any way, just like when you're planting in your garden, you dig a hole and put the plant in and have the root ball reach right at the top, and you have all of the foliage out of the soil. The same applies here. So we don't want to suffocate the plant. So you just kind of come up, pull up. In fact, if it's not too tight up here, that's better than if it's too tight. Okay, so little bits and bobbles in there, just wherever you like. See, that was getting like a little flat on the bottom for me, so I can, because all that wire in there, it sort of can hold shape. I can soften those edges just by squeezing to get the shape that I really want. Okay, maybe one more little piece on the bottom. Okay, and then with your grading pin and a piece of the cocoa husk wire, so I find when you go to hang it, it's best to get as close to the neck as possible. Obviously, if it's hanging from here, it's going to hang straight upside down, and we're trying to get it about here, and the easiest way to do that is to attempt to hang it as close to the top as possible. So you kind of decide which side you like best. I mean, it's cute all the way around. And then I'm going to hold again one end. This time I'm just going around once. Secure it nice and tight. And then just for good measure, see how I twisted them together, the two ends right up close to the neck. For good measure, I like to take one of these greening pins and just poke it in right there too, so it's not going to budge anywhere when it's hanging. And then at the top of your string, just form a little loop and twist it about, and there you go. Oh, I guess I trimmed a little pretty cute. So you can do this. So really, you can do this with any plant. The plants that love to be in kokedama are shade-loving plants. So this is especially nice for places in your home that don't get a whole lot of natural light. So like this is a great plant to hang in your shower, for instance, if you like. So you can kokedama succulents and things, and they're perfectly happy. You don't have to water them as much. The suggestion I would make to you is that you wrap them in, like start with your moss, but wrap more with cocoa husk and maybe some of the other already, essentially this is going to dry out and turn brown. So you're going to want to kind of cover it with other types of moss that will be beautiful. The reindeer moss has died, so it will stay that color, but the living sheet moss, if it's not regularly moist, will turn kind of brown, which it's not the end of the world, but that's the only caveat. If you do like a plant that really doesn't want to be watered a whole lot, then the moss is not watered a whole lot and therefore will dry out. So you can do a succulent, but use those, keep that in mind when you're building it so it looks beautiful. So as far as watering, when you get your kokodama made, you're going to want to notice the weight. So I do this with all my houseplants, but start to pay attention to how much it weighs when it's well watered. And then that's a way that you can easily check to see if you need to water your kokodama, is just to lift it and see if it is super light or very heavy, and that can kind of tell you. The spider plant, I would say, is a good candidate for hanging and coming down about once a week and getting and just being submerged in a bowl or in your sink with water. That's how you want to water it. Just set it in there, let the plant do all the drinking it wants to do. After about a half hour, take it out and just hang it right back up where it belongs. For a fern, I recommend, like, if you have a pretty little saucer, like maybe a vintage plate or something fun like that, that you actually keep it in something that you can keep water in, so that you don't risk letting it dry out, because ferns really don't bounce back from underwater very well. They just crisp up and die. Your spider plant, if you underwater him, he'll come back to life almost indefinitely. Like, they're tough as nails. So that one will be okay, but will still at the same time tolerate low light. So keep this guy, my suggestion is, or like in a saucer, or at least hanging near a water source that you see every day that reminds you, hey, I might need to water my fern, because you really don't want to let it dry out ever. If you are really enjoying your practice and you want to take it to the next level, get a little water spray bottle and mist your kokodama every day, and the moss will love it. The sheet moss actually will get tiny little white blooms if it's very happy. So yeah, I think that's about it.